Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Kate Fitzgerald with Brilliant Life Community. I'm speaking with Alex Greene, founder, practitioner, and TRE trainer at Redbeard Bodywork and Structural Integration. Alex, thank you for agreeing to join with me. Tell me, first of all, where did the name Redbeard come from?
Redbeard. Yeah, lots of people ask about that, and it's kind of a little bit of an obscure reference. So I have a history background in studying and practicing Zen Buddhism. Is still an active sort of part of my life, and I offer trainings. It's an aspect of the work that I do. And the name Redbeard refers to a historical figure, a Chinese, actually who was Indian around the 4th century, was a figure, Bodhidharma, who traveled from India into China, bringing sort of Buddhist teaching, which is the place where it became the Zen school of Buddhist teaching. So it's kind of and he was said to have a red beard and blue eyes. From the part of India that he was in. So he's a little bit of kind of a legendary figure within the Buddhist world. So that's the reference.
Oh, I love it. What brought you to this line of work?
Yeah, well, this was a second career for me. I previously had a career doing woodworking. And but I came to first the bodywork portion of the work that I do, meaning hands-on manual therapy. So I practice myofascial release and structural integration, hands-on bodywork, in addition to TRE and somatic experiencing. And so before I worked sort of primarily with the nervous system, I came in doing hands-on bodywork. And I really got interested in that almost initially as almost like a little bit of a hobby. But I found when I started working in that, I was really drawn to that kind of work. And I was really impressed by the kinds of changes, not only physical changes, like seeing pain symptoms resolve and things like that, but I was especially interested in people who were becoming less anxious, who were becoming more grounded. And it was sort of opening up the possibilities of stability and connection with themselves. And when I observed that that was the case through hands-on bodywork, I began studying, well, what do we know, what's happening with the nervous system, with the psycho-emotional experience, and I began to study that broader scope of work, which is in some ways really what has led me down the path that I have gone on.
Fantastic. Okay. Who are your clients?
My clients are pretty diverse. So in normal life, right now we're in the COVID-19 crisis and quarantine and whatnot. So in my regular work, I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, dealing primarily with a private practice, probably 90% of whom are Madison residents who are coming to see me live. And they range anywhere from young adults, teens and young adults, to older adults, the whole spectrum, men and women. And I'm working largely sometimes with musculoskeletal pain kinds of issues when I'm doing hands-on body work, but increasingly my focus is on working with symptoms of anxiety and resolving symptoms of nervous system dysregulation and stress, which could be from things like overwork or kind of traumatic events recently or in the past. That show up in ways, again, like anxiety, for example, or sleep dysregulation, things of that nature. And about 10% of my work normally is online work, connecting with people on these same topics, but from around the country or actually from around the world. Now, in this current period of lockdowns and whatnot, I'm working exclusively online, both with some group classes, some of which I'm doing free, and then my one-on-one work is all online, and I have been finding it quite effective to work that way, working pretty much with that same population, but now it's broadened a bit to include people further afield than Madison, Wisconsin.
That's good. Oh, that's good to know, because that was one of the questions. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Sets you apart?
I'm sorry, what's that?
I'm sorry, what sets you apart from others who do what you do?
Well, I think one of the things that's most unique in my particular practice is that how I have sort of studied and I have expertise in really three tools that I use in combination. And a lot of people have one or the other or different sets of tools, but I think the particular three that I fit together gives me a little bit of uniqueness. So one is the first one I mentioned, the hands-on body work. And then the second is something called TRE, which stands for tension and trauma releasing exercises. And that's a physical way of inducing a neurogenic tremor, what we call neurogenic tremor, which is a tremoring, shaking vibration process within the body that is part of our system's innate ability to create downregulation or releasing bound tension, both at the musculoskeletal level and also in the nervous system as well. And so that's that tool. And then the third one is something called somatic experiencing. And somatic experiencing is also a nervous system oriented tool. And it's used to work with things like stress, anxiety, and traumas, developed by Dr. Peter Levine. That's more of a conversation, a style of working that's more about tracking sensation in the body and developing strategies around improving regulation in the autonomic nervous system. What I really have found benefit from with my lens of doing all three of these is, for me, whether I'm doing hands-on work or I'm doing conversation-based work, I'm doing the same thing in a sense, and my target area is the autonomic nervous system and how it's showing up in the body, how it's showing up in the breath, how it's showing up in the heart rate, how it's showing up in the sensations associated with anxiety or constriction. And again, whichever of these tools I'm using, I have different ways to help encourage more comfort, ease, and self-regulation. And I think having the different, these three different lenses lets me see things in a little bit different way, and certainly gives me a few different tools to work in and the kinds of suggestions that I can make for people's self-practice. Because one aspect of the way that I work is I do my class or one-on-one sessions, and then I try to support people developing an effective self-practices, the things that are going to keep these changes lasting in their nervous systems.
And how do you do some of those things online?
Excellent question. So the body work I definitely don't do. So that one is kind of off the table in an online setting. The TRE, the tension and trauma releasing exercises, that's me teaching somebody to do a particular set of kind of warming up exercises. They're simple movements that stimulate certain parts of the body, inviting a little bit of fatigue. There's some stretches, there's some breathing exercises, things that prepare the body and the nervous system. And then there's a guided position with some movements of the legs, laying on one's back on the floor in a supported position, that end up in inducing or evoking this trembling process primarily in the legs initially. So that's one that I can guide people through, both the first time that they do it. I can also point sometimes what I'm doing these days, being quite busy with the COVID-19 crisis. Sometimes I'm having people follow those instructions on a video and trying it a few times on their own. And then my work with them has to do with becoming more nuanced on how to use it, things to pay attention to, how to titrate or control the experience for maximum benefit. So it's releasing tensions in the nervous system at a rate that the system can integrate, not too much or too little. So what I'm doing a lot with that is providing, seeing what I see and providing some guidance, and also helping them structure their home practice that's going to be effective in that work. And then the somatic experiencing work, like I said, is largely conversation driven. And all I need for that is I prefer video versus phone, because then I can still see the person. I can see their facial expression, if their color changes, which would signal, say, a shift or change in if their heart rate started to increase and then their face flushed a little bit. So actually, I have found there's a lot that I can still see, observe, and work with through body language or physiological tracking that I can do in an online way. And I can also suggest to people the same kinds of techniques that I use in person. Things like certain kinds of breathing patterns, certain things, movements of the eyes and body that facilitate subtle but powerful shifts in the nervous system. So those are some of the ways that I can continue to work.
Oh, that's fantastic. I understand that you're offering free daily TRE group classes, and I know that there's a prerequisite for that, and also a 1-hour introduction to Zen meditation and breathing exercises. And people can get more information about that on your website. Anything else you'd like to say about that in particular?
Yeah, I'll mention those too. I mean, the daily free TRE class I set up really as one of just I wanted to provide a consistent container for people who are wanting to regulate stress and anxiety through this COVID-19 crisis. And my thought was simply to have it daily was the easiest way that people could come in when they can and whatnot. With that one, yes, information is on the website. The prerequisite is simple. It's simply that they've done TRE at least once, whether that's with an approved provider like me, or they've done a video, or that they've somehow tried it a couple times so they know what it's like in their body. The only reason is because I'm doing this every day, I'm doing a little bit of a shorter version than if I was teaching an introductory class for beginners. So rather than going through all of some of the kind of introductory material, I wanted to provide a space that we could efficiently use the mechanism and not have to sort of repeat it for beginners every time. That way, the cohort that has developed, it doesn't take an unnecessary amount of time for us to have a successful daily shake. So that's that one. The introduction to Zen meditation and breathing, that one is introductory. Somebody could come in my intention there is to simply provide simple instruction in Zen style meditation, sitting meditation on the floor or on a chair, and then some of the breathing practices that help enrich that style of meditation.
Great. Could you tell us more about your neurogenic tumor work with licensed professionals?
Absolutely. So that's called, neurogenic tremor release technique is a new offering that Dr. Briselli, the founder of TRE, and I are developing and putting out in a workshop format specifically for licensed manual therapists. And licensed manual therapists are people like licensed massage therapists, for example, physical therapists, occupational therapists, chiropractors, any licensed professional where they're doing hands-on manual work. And the intention of that program is to take the tremoring process that comes out of TRE, again, that's the vibratory discharging process from TRE, and it's applying it specifically to the bodywork setting. So on the table, a simple way of eliciting the vibration or the tremor, and then some strategies and tools around using it for assessment, integration, and deepening some of the kinds of therapeutic techniques that we use as manual therapists. So originally that program was going to be launched in just a couple of weeks in Madison, Wisconsin. Unfortunately, of course, due to the COVID crisis and with the most states being in a lockdown right now, we are pushing that back to September as our sort of that's when we have our next set of dates reserved for that program. But when we're approved to do that, hopefully in September, we're really excited. We know that that's going to be a very cool, new and more specific audience to use TRE with.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Can you tell me about any other ways that we haven't covered that you're working with clients during the quarantine?
Yeah, I'm not doing any other sort of specific methods, but let's see. Some colleagues on my team are actually doing 2 other donation-based class offerings right now. One is called Somatics Yoga Therapy, which is simply yoga, but somatics is a style of movement that has to do with neuromuscular retraining. And so that's a class. And so it's a twice per week class with that. And one of those classes per week also includes the tremoring process from TRE. So it's a bit of a hybridization of those, of yoga and tremoring. And then another of my team members in my company, Redbeard Bodywork, Courtney, is doing a class in something called a Knott-Baniel method neuromovement, which similarly is a brain-body movement type of training that helps develop integration at the level of body and brain. And both of those are being offered in addition on a weekly basis, and we're doing everything like that on a donation basis right now. So, and the only other, it's not a different category, but something, the other sort of response that I felt was important during this time was I wanted to provide very inexpensive or even free support for frontline healthcare workers. And so I've been doing some of my work with TRE and somatic experiencing, basically pro bono or deeply discounted for some of these first responders. And that's been very meaningful to be able to provide some stress crisis level support for some of these people.
Oh, absolutely. That's wonderful. I understand that you are a TRE global trainer. And can you tell me what that process is like?
Sure. Do you mean in terms of becoming a trainer or what the training process is like?
Oh gosh, probably both. You
Okay.
know,
Yeah,
someone might have both questions. Yes.
I can kill both birds with one stone.
Thank you.
So the TRE certification process in general is for people to become approved TRE providers. Typically takes somewhere between 9 to 12 months ish. And the way that it's structured, it's open to anybody, meaning it could be body workers, we have doctors and nurses, we have people who are social workers, psychotherapists, we have people who are teachers, or people without any specific avocation in this field. So it's a very broad group that are allowed to go through this stress technique training process. And what we cover, there's 2 live modules, meaning where there's 2 periods where we get together for 3 days and we cover the theoretical material and a lot of the safety and how-to. And we begin by focusing on people's individual experiences. We want people to start to use this method for themselves, uncover some of the value in it from a sort of first-person felt sense experience. And then we teach them how to work with individuals. And then we teach them how to safely support small groups. And in addition to the 2 live training periods, then there's readings and journals and some work in between. And then there's a process of about a dozen or so supervision sessions where we meet with a student one-on-one. Oftentimes they don't live where we do, so that's oftentimes remotely like this using Zoom. And as they start to teach others or as they start to teach groups, they do some recording of some of that so that we can look through and make sure that they are maturing and developing the competencies to safely use the method. So that's the training process as a whole. I myself, I'm a new trainer. I just completed the requirements to become a global certification trainer at the end of last year. For me, that was a process of assisting and then doing putting trainings on my own under supervision. It took me about 2 years of doing that process before becoming licensed to offer trainings on my own. So that's a newer part of the work that I'm doing now.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah.
We touched a little on your workshop event, whatever you want to call it, with Dr. Berselli,
Right.
September. What more can you tell us about that?
About the workshop. So let's see, what more can I tell you about that? Well, what I think is because I began my work as a body worker, before I knew about TRE and the tremoring process, so I had a few interesting experiences when I was very new, where first myself, when I was a student and I was learning, I myself had a spontaneous kind of a tremoring discharge at release when I was laying when I was receiving Bodywork at one point. And I really didn't know what it felt. It felt comfortable. It felt good. It felt like something good was happening. Afterwards, I felt that something important had happened, but we didn't have a lot of my bodywork therapist didn't have a lot of information about what that was about or an explanation for it. So it stood out to me as a curiosity. And then when I started working on individuals, that was something that I would see happen occasionally as well. So as I'm working to relax somebody's neck or shoulders or whatnot, and they're laying on my bodywork treatment table, that I would sometimes see that a part of their body, oftentimes in their legs, would start to develop a little bit of a quiver or vibration. And so I was observing that, and then at a certain point I got exposed to the TRE method, and I was really excited because I thought, wow, this is exactly that thing that happened to me that one time, and it's that thing that I see happen sometimes, and how cool that somebody has studied this and put together a body of work, and now this thing that I didn't understand what was going on, now I can start to learn what's the neurophysiologically what's happening. What's the benefit of that? Are there things that we can do to safely support that? Is it a good thing? If so, why? So I learned all that in my TRE training. And then the idea that Dr. Briselli and I developed in the last 2 years is that body workers, manual therapists, are the perfect audience for knowing about the tremor mechanism and how to support it in simple, easy ways on the treatment table. Because they probably see many examples of it regularly, the way that I did. And then knowing what to do with it greatly expands the possibility of utilizing it. And from my point of view as a body worker, I sort of think that anybody trained as a manual therapist should at a minimum know about this phenomenon because they'll see it, but more importantly, can learn to work with it in safe way. When you first see it, and you don't have any training, you might be cautious around it, not know what's happening, wonder if it's okay. And the reality is not only is it okay, it's actually one of the most efficient ways to release musculoskeletal tension patterns and to release the kinds of holdings in nervous system imprints, traumatic, injury, stress, and otherwise. So to me, that's what's so cool about it. It's the perfect audience to know a lot about this response and know that it will in many ways accelerate and improve the kinds of results that they're seeing through manual therapy.
Oh, that's fantastic. So are you planning it online or are you hoping we can come together?
Really good question. That one, we're hoping we can come together. In some ways, that one, a live training environment will be the best in terms of, seeing and teaching hands-on work. Our hope and goal was to start it in Madison and then our intention is to offer that really around the country over the next several years. So certainly we'll include trainings around the Midwest in the Twin Cities and Chicago are sort of next on our list. And then we'll broaden a bit to cover the coasts. Dr. Briselli is in Phoenix. We have lots of TRE community along the West Coast and in the East Coast. So we don't see a reason why this won't become a program that will be covered in multiple places, probably not only in the US, but in a little bit further afield as well. If push came to shove, there might be elements that we could do in an online form, or at least an introduction to the method. And I think he and I will discuss whether and how to do that if that's seems like it will be necessary.
Oh, that's great. We look forward to that and getting more information as well, as every day is different. So,
Right.
We'll see as we come to that. Do you have any articles or blogs you'd like to share with us or can provide links for us? Great
question. The thing that first comes to my mind is a link that I was intending to do a social media share later today. It's not my own writing. It's something that came from Dr. Bessel van der Kolk's social media post the other day, and he didn't write it either, but it's an article written about right off the top of my head, I don't remember the headline, but the first few sentences are basically, during this COVID-19 crisis, if you've been having shortness of breath and feelings of anxiety and tightness in the chest, it's probably because your sympathetic nervous system is on overdrive. And then it goes on to talk about the polyvagal theory and the nervous system theory that we use in TRE and in somatic experiencing. And this idea that regulating our mental experiences of stress, anxiety, panic, and this and that, PTSD, that what Bessel van der Kolk, he's the author of The Body Keeps the Score, has really pioneered the understanding that body-based, somatic-based, what's called bottom-up nervous system processing can oftentimes be more effective than top-down processing, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, or at a minimum that doing both can have better results. So that's a link that I'd like to share with your audience, simply because I think it's a good capture and it speaks to this current moment, the kinds of stress and anxiety that many of us are experiencing, even if we're not prone to high anxiety on an everyday basis. And I think that it's the explanation provided in terms of the nervous system theory is very relevant.
Oh, terrific. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Do you, on your website, have frequently asked questions we could link to about what you do?
That's a great question. Yes, I do. And hearing that, I'm already thinking, well, it could be updated a little bit. But yes, I do. And my website has lots of information about the specific modalities as well. And all of that is links and information I'd be happy to share.
Oh, great. Is there anything else you would like us to know?
I don't think so. I feel like we covered a good amount of ground and captured the kind of the main focus of my work. But no, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak and share how my practice is supporting people right now.
Well, we're so excited to talk to you because you are doing such wonderful things, and we look forward to talking to you again and again about other wonderful things you're doing. So, Alex, I thank you so much for your time, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you very much, Kate. I appreciate it. Lovely to meet you as well.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you.